To today's session, we are going to be looking at how to build an AI assistant for free. For those of you who haven't met before, hi, I am Jamie Bykov-Brett. Really looking forward to leading you through today's session. We've got comments turned on. I know the LinkedIn stream link was having some issues, so if you're catching this on LinkedIn, fantastic. If not, not a problem. The YouTube link is also there as well. So there's a few steps of what I want to be able to walk through with you today. We're first of all going to start through looking through ChatGPT, GPT assistants. This is kind of like our fundamental basic building blocks of what an assistant looks like. Then we're going to be moving on to building assistants using the OpenAI API. Sounds complicated. I promise you that it's not. Then we're going to be moving on to being able to build those into our own application. So we're going to look at it as part of an automation, and we're going to look at it as part of a bot, an assistant that we can interact with. So that's kind of what we're covering for today's session. The questions are turned on. If anyone does have any, do leave a comment. I will be able to go and see them, and we'll try and answer what we can as we go through. But let's jump into it so you can see how to build your own AI assistant. So to start with this, lots of the information that we're going to go through today is available on the Metropolitan Academy platform. It's a free to join platform, free to join community. We've got lots of resources. We have AI assistants that can help you. So do feel free to come check it out if that is something you're interested in. So our first thing we want to be able to do is we are going to jump into ChatGPT. And when we're in ChatGPT, if you're going to build assistants, you are going to need to have the Plus account. So don't worry if you don't already have it. There's lots of things today that we might go through where you want to be able to replay this video. It'll be available on that YouTube link, so you can always jump back in to have another look. But we are going to need the Plus account to be able to build our own assistants. You can see on my navigation, all of these things along the side here are assistants that I use that help me out with day-to-day things that I do through my business. And this is where assistants can be really useful. So an assistant is essentially almost like a pre-programmed GPT that has a way of being able to work that you've already described. So essentially, it's really good if there's repetitive tasks that we're doing, we can get the AI assistant to be able to help us with it. And we'll have a look at what some of those might look like. So our first one we are going to look at is we want to be able to go to the top right-hand corner where our account is. We're going to go to where it says My GPTs. And this is where you can keep all of the GPTs that you create and all these assistants, and they'll show up on the sidebar when you need them. So we are going to go to Create a GPT. And what might happen is you might get greeted by this screen to start with, this create screen, which kind of basically allows you to use prompting to develop an assistant. Now, I always find that I don't get the best results from that. So I'm going to suggest that you go to where it says configure. And the reason that I'm starting off in this, and it might be something you're already familiar with, is because the same principles we're using here help us when we're building other things later on down the chain. So as part of our assistant bit, the first thing we could do is add an image if we want to. You don't have to. It's not a prerequisite. It gives you the chance if you're clicking on it to create one yourself or use DALL-E. So we might come back to that at the end. But I'm going to give my assistant a name, and I'm going to start with a really simple one. But genuinely, I use this assistant more than I use any other assistant out there. And it's how to create a meta description for a page. So what this does is essentially a meta description on a page is, if you've ever seen a link pop up, normally see a sentence underneath that describes it. So it takes an article and it turns it into a meta description, or it takes a blog post, or it takes a web page and it turns it into just a short meta description. So I'm going to call this meta description demo. I can give it a description. Shortens text. You're going to realize that my ability to type and text is genuinely non-existent. Fortunately, I have got a little AI assistant that runs across programs that works with a shortcut key that you can download on the Metropolitan, and it will be able to help with these different things. So, but on this time it hasn't, so let's just go shorten text. Fantastic. Then this is the really important part. So similar to when you're using any generative AI, all generative AI at the moment really works with this whole idea of prompt to whatever you want it to be able to do. So you put in your text, and what it does is that uses that to be able to help generate an output. And essentially, this is what we're doing with an AI assistant here. We're giving it an instruction, and that's essentially the framework, the context that this assistant is going to use for being able to do everything that we need later on. So I'm going to copy this text from my little notepad here. And it's a really simple assistant I'm building here. It says, create a 140 character meta description from the context provided. Use UK English spelling. I'm based in the UK. US English is how it's normally default. So this is a really useful way of being able to get around some of that. We could add in some conversation starters. So a conversation starter is a little bubble that pops up, and it basically can be used to give the assistant almost like some instructions to be able to work with. So I'm going to say, introduce what you do. And essentially, you can see that adds that little bubble to it here. Now, if we come further down, we've got some extra options. So we have a knowledge-based option, we have some capabilities, and we're going to look at that in a second. But essentially, these are all extra functionality that we can use to our system. So I'm going to give this assistant, without adding any knowledge or anything in at the moment, a little bit of a test. And that's what this panel on the right-hand side for, is it allows us to test our systems, our processes, the way that our AI works, to see if it does what we want it to be able to do. So let's give it a website to be able to work with. I'm going to just go and copy the text off this website, which is the Executive AI Institute. If you're someone who's interested in AI leadership training, then a really good place to be able to check out. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that text into my preview panel. If I click on enter, what it should have hopefully done is turn that into a meta description. So we can see that it's followed what we want it to be able to do. Now, that's super useful for us. If we create that as a GPT, it will appear in our sidebar, and we'll be able to utilize it to go over and over again, which I do. I just go in and copy and paste text and use it to generate these meta descriptions. So the other things that we can do here is we're going to try and make this a little bit more complicated. Like, this is a really good starting assistant, but I want to be able to make it maybe just a little bit more complex. So I'm going to use an assistant that essentially is trained on that business that we just looked at to be able to give us answers and information on it. So I'm going to call this Executive AI Leadership Support. I'm going to give it a description is help people understand the business better. And for instructions, I'm going to say what I want this to do is I want it to be able to answer people's questions based on the Executive AI Institute. So I'm going to give it some other information, but a really simple prompt. So I'm going to go with answer the questions that people have about. I'm going to change people. I'm going to change it to user. User has about the Executive AI Institute. Fantastic. So we've got that in. I'm going to go and change my conversation starter to be like, what is the Executive AI Institute? Now, the reason that I wanted to build this up and show you in this bot how it's going to work is because we're going to do some extra things here, some extra steps. So we're going to add in a knowledge base. And what I've done here is, you can't see it because it doesn't show a pop-up bit, but I'm just going to add in some documents that I have from my downloads that essentially look at things like the website copy, information that I've given on it, and I'm just going to upload some documents to it. So we're going to open those, upload, and what you can see is it's now attaching a few different documents to it that, the website copy, a one-pager, a presentation on the business. So essentially we're using a technique called RAG. So we're retrieval augmented generation. So essentially, we are creating a situation now where we're almost training the model on this data. We're vectorizing that model. So every time it's looking for information, it's going to search through these knowledge documents first. And this is going to be really useful because if we're designing a bot that's based on our business, we obviously want that bot to be specific to our business. We have some extra information that we can use here. So capabilities, we can give it web searching capability, which means that if we wanted it to be able to look over a website and things like that, it could do so. We can use a canvas feature, which essentially means that if you were doing it for something like designing a document, maybe you're creating a proposal writer assistant, what you'd be able to do is have a second canvas come up that you could see all of that content on, and it just makes it a little bit easier to see between the two. I'm not going to use Canvas for this because I want all of the answers to stay within the chat. We can use 4.0 image generation. So if this was something, let's say we created an assistant and the whole point is it was designed to help us be able to generate thumbnails for videos and stuff like that, we might want it to be an image generator. But for the purposes of this one, I'm going to turn it off because it doesn't need to generate any images. And then we have a code and data analysis aspect to it. So essentially, this means that if we've uploaded documents and they've got coding or information that might involve more analytical interpretation, this can be a really useful way of being able to do it. So if you were looking at something like a spreadsheet or something like that, you might want to be able to turn this on. I'm going to keep it turned on because I think that's going to be useful for looking through some of the documents. It probably doesn't need it, but it's not going to do any harm. Actions and stuff, that gets a little bit more complicated, so we might come back to that one later. But for the purposes of setting up our bot, this is a great place to be able to start. So I'm going to go into my chat test now, and I'm going to go, what is the Executive AI Institute? You can see that it's searching the knowledge base, and now it's answering questions that are very much tailored to that. Now, this is really useful because if you want to vectorize a model to make it sound like you or sound like your business or sound like your business proposition, this is the great way to be able to go and do it. So I can see that it works. Maybe I'm going to try something else. What do they offer? Great. We can see that it understands the products and services that are there. So we have all of the information that we need. Our bot is working. Now we want to be able to publish it. When you publish it, there's a few different options that you have. So you can publish it so it's only for you, which means it'll only appear in your side window. You can have it published for anyone with the link. So if you wanted to be able to share this to other people, you can tick that option and it'll be able to mean that if you give them the link, they'll be able to access the bot. That doesn't mean they can access all of your conversations. They can have a conversation with the bot separately, but you don't see what other people are typing into it. And then we could also publish it to the GPT store, which is kind of like the app store for GPTs. So lots of people have designed different GPTs that do different things. If we wanted to, we could go and publish it to a store. Now I'm going to put this one only for me. Click save. And it's always nerve-wracking when you're presenting and you're wondering if it's if your saved document is going to appear. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So we've saved it. We can see it's created the GPT. So I'm now going to go to view that GPT. And we can see that we have that now accessible to us on the front page, but also it should appear in our side column somewhere. We might need to refresh the page in order to make that happen. Or we might need to use it once in order to be able to make that happen. So let's go. Let's just click on our little prompt here, the one that we put up there. Great. We can see that it's working within our window. I'm going to try refreshing ChatGPT and hoping that it shows in my sidebar. It might be because I've got too many things in, but it's not. It's right there at the bottom. So we can now see we have our GPT ready to use. If you don't see it in your sidebar and you want to be able to get access to it again some point, you can go to your top right-hand corner, go to My GPTs, and you'll see it in the list of GPTs that you've created. So we have created a GPT assistant for free within ChatGPT. Fantastic. This is our first step. This step also works very similarly to other learning platforms, other LLMs that have assistants as part of what we want to be able to do. Now, that's great if we want to just do things within our browser, if we want to just do things within ChatGPT, and if you're using it as an individual, that might be as far as you want to be able to go. But we can take it a few steps further. So now we're going to go into OpenAI Assistant. So to be able to get to this, you're going to log in and you're going to need to create an OpenAI account. And you're going to think to yourself, I've got a ChatGPT. What's the difference between ChatGPT and OpenAI? Well, OpenAI is like your back end of ChatGPT. This is how you can build it into your own things. So if you go to openai.com and log in, you're going to be greeted by a very different screen, something that looks like this. Let's go to a home screen. Yeah, it will either start up on programs or docs or settings. What I'm going to want you to do is go to where it says dashboard. If you're going through this, you are going to need to set up an OpenAI account. And essentially, because you're using the back end, you're using the API, you're going to need to set up billing for it. For some context on costs of how much it costs to use the API of OpenAI. So if we're using the 4.0 model, which is the basic model, you get 1 million tokens for 40 cents, which for context of how much that means that you could use a whole entire novel's worth of tokens of text, and it would cost you 40 pence to be able to use it. So it's really cheap using OpenAI's API, particularly if we're using the right model. If you're using something like the 4.5, which is another model that's open to you, it's a much more complex model. The costs are significantly greater. You might be talking 40, 50 pence per run, but you will get better results from it, particularly if you were designing something that needed a lot of empathetic chat and stuff like that. You might want to be able to utilize that. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to use the 4.0 model. So there's also a video on our YouTube page if you want to learn how to be able to set up that billing and have a step-by-step. If we go into one of our videos down here, this little free generation walkthrough, the first 2 minutes of this video would take you through how to be able to set up your billing account. So I can send you the link to that, and I'll make sure it's available. But yeah, you can just type in free Gen AI assistant. It will teach you how to be able to set up the billing. It's not something that takes long, but you might want some help going through that step by step. And the first 2 minutes of that video will show you how. So back onto our assistant now. We've set up the billing. We're ready to go. Now we want to be able to build an assistant to have an API to be able to plug into. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to go to where it says dashboard, and I want to be able to go to where it says assistants. So similarly to what we were just doing in ChatGPT in our own little OpenAI window, now we're doing it to build it to an API. So essentially this assistant, we could plug into lots of different things. We could plug it into a chatbot for your website. We could plug it into an automation, and we're going to look at how to be able to do that. So I'm going to go, and actually I'm going to pinch the prompt from my previous one in here, and I'm going to take it to our assistant. So the same thing that we just did when we were using ChatGPT, we can do it in our OpenAI assistants here. So I'm going to give it the name. I'm going to call it Executive AI Bot. The system instructions I'm going to give it are the same as what we had before. Answer questions around the Executive AI Institute. We can select our models here. I would recommend going for, if you're looking for the cheapest model, you want to be able to go for the 4.1 nano. That's the one that does for a million tokens for 40 cents. So it's a lot of information for not that much of a cost to be able to run it. And for really quick, responsive things like for a chatbot, it's absolutely perfect. So we've got our same options as we had before, our file search for our knowledge base and our code interpreter. So if you wanted to be able to run code and stuff like that, we'd put them into the code base, but we're just going to add our files to the file search. So if I go files, upload, it won't show you my upload screen, which is kind of good for security. It used to do that. So I'm selecting some documents right now, just as I did before. Great, we can see these have all loaded up. And now we've created a vector store. So when you hear people talk about vector stores when it comes to AI, this is what it is, a vectorization of a model. We've uploaded all of that information. I'm now going to go to where it says attach. The response format I want is going to be text. We could do it for like JSON and code, but we are going to be using text for these examples. If you were building something that was creating documents at the end of it, we'd start to use JSON, but we don't need that for what we're doing. So temperature is essentially how creative do you want this model to be able to be? How much can it assume? Now, 1 is normally a good place to be able to put it. The closer to 0 you get, the more rigid the model becomes, and the higher than that you go, the more abstract and the more likely it is to hallucinate. I find that 1 is quite a good place to be able to be. And top P, I always keep at 1. I've never really seen the difference of changing it. So yeah, for the sake of simplicity, we'll keep the temperature at 1. We'll keep the top P at 1. And now essentially we're going to go. We've created our model. It says that you've got create up here, but actually, as soon as you've ticked it in and you filled in that information, as long as you tick off it, you'll find that it's saved. I'm going to create another model there just so you can see the difference between the two. Great. We now have a model that we've got an assistant ready to go. So let's start plugging this assistant into some things that we might want to be able to create. We're going to look at 2 platforms. We're going to look at Make and we're going to look at Typebot. So if I jump into Make, I have had to do a little bit of art attack here. Here's one I've made earlier. I have a little Telegram bot that's sitting here. Essentially, Telegram is a messaging platform, and I've built a bot on it. And I like building bots on Telegram because it's free and it's quite easy to be able to do. In the interest of time, I can't show you everything about it, but yeah, essentially we can bring up our own little Telegram bot to be able to ask it text and information and content. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and reshare it so you can see that when it pops up. Let me bring this across here and then add stage and see if maybe I need to add in a. Let's add in the second monitor there and share the entire screen. So you can now see the Telegram bot as well. So Telegram is an application. You can use it on your phone. You can use it on your laptop. Fantastic, because then we can use it cross-platform. And if we wanted to be able to create a bot, we could just go into searching for the bot father. Oh, it's not in this chat. Let me widen this search up a bit. And widen this out. And there we go, we've got a search bar. So if I wanted to go for bot father, you can see that I'm limited on the amount of bots that I can do. So I've used up all 20, but if you type in bot father, follow the instructions on it. By typing new bot, it'll allow you to create a bot on it. Fantastic. So we've got our bot. This one's called Rick. We've connected it to our Make platform. Make is an automation platform. So really easy for being able to kind of set up a basic walkthrough. And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect this bot to OpenAI. So we can see that we've got the information there. We've got our bot connected. I click here. I'm going to go and type in module OpenAI. We're going to go to message and assistant. We should be able to see in our assistants, the one that we've just created, the executive AI bot. We're going to give it the role of the information we're putting in as a user. So we don't need it to be an assistant. We want it to be able to take the information that we're providing as the user information. And then we're going to want to add some text in. So actually, I'm going to quickly unlink this so we can add some text in to check that our bot is actually connected to what we hope it is. So you can see I've just clicked on the run button there. I'm going to put some text in. So let's just go test text. And we can see that it connected, it came across. The reason that I did that is because I want to be able to really easily find that information. And this is how all of our automations work, is it's essentially taking it from one step to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. So if I look on my message now, I should be able to go text, and I can see that test text that we put in the bot has come through. So essentially, I'm putting that in as a variable now into my message, and it's going to take that information all the way through. Now, that's actually all I need to be able to do, because I've built everything on the back end of this, and I've built it into the assistant on the other side. So if I go save, now what I want it to be able to do is this Telegram bot is going to send a message back to us with the OpenAI's response. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to look for Rick. The chat ID, I can go into chat. I'm going to go to ID. And I can see that I've got a from ID here. So that's great. Let's connect that in. The text we're going to have is, we want this is the text that's come from our AI bot. So we're going to want this to be able to be from ChatGPT. And actually what I'm going to do, because I want to make sure that I'm sending across the right thing again, is I'm going to actually run this with the ChatGPT module not connected to anything, so I can check that I'm getting the right text coming through to the next thing. So let's just go, what is executive AI Qt? You can see that came through, and we can see that that then went to our AI assistant. And our AI assistant has done something with it. We know that it's done something, but we haven't had it sent back yet. So now I need to find that chat ID again. And then the text that I'm going to have come through, I should be able to see on here the information that was generated from it. And I must have done something wrong, which always happens with a demonstration, because I'm not getting the response that I'm expecting back. So let's take it back a few steps and double check where we may have gone wrong. OpenAI. The assistant we're looking for is here. We're going to send it on behalf of the assistant. We're going to take our text, we're going to run through, and we're going to double check why our assistant wasn't coming up with what we want. So let's go type in the same information again. We should be able to see our output. So we can see that we have a result output here. Let's go back into Telegram, go back to send a message or reply. select our bot. It's always good to do these things when things go wrong as well, because ultimately that is half of the battle. It's not to get panicked, it's just to keep trying until you get the results that you're looking for. In a Bob Ross kind of way, there's no wrong, just happy little accidents. And I can see that it's not coming with the results that I would normally expect to be able to see in here. I'm going to give it a try with annotations and see what happens. But I can see that it's producing the right data because I can see it in the results bit here. So it might just be a case of a little bit of test, trial and error to make sure we're getting it right. Let's try our bot again. And we'll run it. So we see that we've come up with an error again, not a problem. Let's have a look at why that might be. I'm also just going to quickly check on one of my other ones to check that it is doing what I would expect. The other thing that sometimes can happen is when you're connecting these modules, it might always be worth saving it and then refreshing the page as well. Because sometimes these things don't always connect the way that you expect first time. The amount of times that I've produced something and gone, you know what, it's just because I haven't refreshed the page once I've added a module. And that's exactly what it is. There we go. See, joys of having all these things is you'll come across these mistakes all the time. Cool. So we wanted our content to be able to come through. And now you can see that I've got extra options. So you can see why I was completely baffled. So what I'm going to do is I want this value that came from our AI assistant. And this wasn't showing up the first time that I connected the module. But I can see that the output is there. So I can now save it. And now we're going to try and run our AI again. And we're going to use the information we've already put in there. Great. And what we can see is that assistant has now replied in our Telegram chat. Whew. I was worried that was going to be a demo that went completely wrong, but it worked. So happy to be able to show you that. Great. So we've now got our Executive AI Institute. We've got the questions. We can see that it's working. Let's turn it on so it's running automatically and it's receiving data as soon as it comes in. Let's go for who founded the Executive AI Institute. Because this is instantaneous working, we can see that it's coming up with information. It's not necessarily the right information, but it's checking through some information. So I might want to be able to refine this and test this further. Maybe it's not looking for the right documents in the assistant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly tweak my prompt, go ensure you check the knowledge documents before coming up with an answer. Great, so it's not coming up with the right one the first time. Let's go and tweak it a little bit more. I could also go into the advanced settings here, and I'm going to tick in our code interpreter resources, I'm going to tick all of these documents. It should do it automatically, but it's just an extra step to go, I want to make sure that it's doing what I want it to be able to do. So let's try it again. Run our AI, and let's see if we get the right answer this time. We might have had an error with OpenAI. So let's see, something's gone wrong. Maybe it's that we haven't given it the code interpreter resources that we want it to be able to use. So it's not looking for them in the right place. Let me go and change that. So it's very simple. All of the things always are. A simple checkbox exercise. I uploaded my files, but I hadn't turned it on to be able to go and do it. So I can turn on these features. It's all well and good uploading the documents, but if you haven't flicked the right switch, it's not going to do what we want it to be able to do. So now we can see that it has that information there, and it should be able to use our code interpreter resources now. So let's go back in again. And it doesn't matter how many of the bots you build. I have built hundreds, if not thousands by now. We start to see that we can come up and tick through all of these different checklists that we need to be able to go, because there will always be something, and the majority of the time it's human error. So you have to look over it and figure out what you may have been doing, where it might have gone wrong. And most of all, don't panic, okay? There's no point getting frustrated. These things will work out. So at the moment, it says it's having problem finding the documents. Let's go back into our code resources again. I'm going to tick on these options in my AI, just in case that's what the problem is. And I'm also going to add the vector store into the file search resources, just to double check that we have collected everything that we can do. And these often override the ones that were there. So because I ticked them before I ticked them in the assistant, that probably didn't go the way that I expected. But let's give it a shot again. Ooh, click on a completely wrong program. That's not going to help us. Let's try this again. The good thing about any automation is if there is an error coming up, you should be able to see where and why it's happening. So actually, we can see that this time it's gone through, and it's still not got the right answer on what we want to be able to do. So the other thing that I might want to be able to do is go, well, if it's not finding it in the file resources that I'm hoping for, let me give it context here. So I'm going to put this information about the business actually into the bot. I'm just going to upload it as from the website copy that I've got here. Let's copy that in. It's got all of the information on the business now. I've checked that my file search is turned on. I'm actually going to turn them off in here in case it's overriding any of the defaults, which is not what I want it to be able to do. And let's see if we get the right results this time. We'll have it show up on here as well, so we can test where it might be going wrong. There we go. So it says we have the right information. At least it knows where it's being able to find it from. It might be having some problems with the file interpreter. It might be something that I need to go and figure out. But for the purposes of this one, hopefully it gives you a good idea of being able to see how it all connects together. What I'm also going to do is show you how to build this into a type bot. So this is a kind of bot that we could have on our website. It's the kind of information that we might want to be able to build into our website so people can ask questions, book inquiries, all of that kind of stuff. So Typebot is a free to use application as well. So is Make. Both of their free versions give you a real decent start without you having to spend any money on being able to do so. So great applications to learn this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new bot, and I've gone into, I could give it a name. So let's just call it EAAI. I'm going to drag the OpenAI module across, and I'm going to select my demo account that we had earlier, and I'm going to go for Ask an Assistant. And similarly to what we were doing when it came to what we were doing before in our previous one, we were, it's not liking the API in that one. So maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not connecting well with what we've been doing previously. I'm going to use another one as a demo to be able to do this then. So let's just use our Typebot here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another assistant to be able to ask. I could select an assistant, and I am going to go for my Jamify. So this is one that I've created that makes text that I've got, and it makes it sound more like it's written by me because I've got it. So it's trained on the way that I talk, the way that I create information, all of that kind of stuff. So I've put my OpenAI thing in there, but what I want now is I need to have some way of being able to collect an input and an output. So if I was to go into text, I'm going to add a text that the AI is going to ask the person. Okay, what is the text you would like this assistant to Jamify? So that's what the bot is going to ask the person, and then I'm going to add an input in here for text. And this is where the person is going to input the information that they want. And all we need to do here is save it as a variable. So we're going to go, whatever they've created as the input, I'm just going to call it input for the sake of speed. Great. So we've got our bot asking a question. We've got the text that we're going to input, and now we need to go and ask the assistant. Where it says messages here, we're going to take that information. We're going to go to input, and I want it to be able to save the response as an output. Great. So now the AI is going to do its bit. We've got the user doing their bit by inputting the response, but now what we need is that response to be able to come back to the user. So we need to add another text box, and in here we're just going to put the variable output. So what that means is whatever it's had from the OpenAI assistant, it should then communicate that back. We need to connect our start with our AI assistant. And now we're going to give it a test. So what text should I give it to Jamify? Let's give it all of this text. See what it does with it. You can see that our AI assistant is working through there, hopefully coming up with a response. I did give it a lot of text to be able to work with. Probably not the easiest thing to do for a demo. There we go. We now have a Jamified response to that information that we've had. So that's our assistant being connected, and giving that information back. And obviously we can add in additional steps here. If we wanted to retest it, if we wanted to ask follow-up questions, we could go and add an extra unit in. Maybe we just want to copy this module, and we could ask another question to it and follow up as we move through. So once you've done that assistant, you could publish it. You could then go and put it onto your website. But essentially, these are how all assistants work. This is how they all connect together. Hopefully that was a useful demonstration. And I know we've had some things go wrong, but I think that that's actually part of the experience of it as well, because you do need to be able to be in a situation where it might involve a little bit of testing, a little bit of reiteration. As you saw, sometimes it was a refresh of a page or a tweak of a unit that has made all of the difference to something being able to work. However, we have got lots of things that have been pre-tested, ready to go, that help small, medium enterprises, individuals, whoever you might be, to be able to essentially use some AI assistants that I've already created. And these are some of our typebot examples, really. These all work in exactly the same way as what you've just saw. So these are available for free on the website. If you want to be able to utilize any of them, this one translates legalese from legal language into normal English, or from normal English into legalese. If you want to be able to have an AI leadership roadmap, building a business plan for your business, creating a content calendar for the week ahead, all of them are free. Netropolitan.xyz/AI-assistance. Go and check them out. Good way to be able to test it. And we've kind of looked at the technicalities of building an assistant and the ins and outs of being able to do so. But one thing that you need to be able to do to get your assistant working really well is to know how to be able to create great prompts. So there is a prompt guide in our Ignition Guide section that you can download for free. Also tells you how to build things like a Telegram bot on Make. We have a step-by-step guide there. If you want to be able to have an AI auto hotkey that allows you to use generative AI across applications with a shortcut key, there's a step-by-step guide on how to be able to do that as well. I hope this was interesting. I hope it was useful. I know it was definitely different for a lot of people, so hopefully it has taken you on your first steps on this journey. But if this is the kind of things that you are looking to learn, do join us at the Netropolitan. We've got courses, join the community. We'd love to be able to have you there and to be able to help support you on your AI journey. So thank you so much for your time, energy, for joining us today. And I look forward to catching you all very, very soon. So have a fantastic day, and I look forward to catching you.